We were there when Paul Tkach composed Go Marauders, our fight song, and composed the alma mater. And we didn't just take college songs and put different words to them. We had real, new, original music for our high school. We were fortunate to have young, energetic teachers and coaches to help us grow. Dale Krieger, I was fortunate I had Dale for 3 out of the 4 years I was in high school. Bob Burdett, Lowell Burgess, Chuck Unseld, Jim Sprague, Jane Thomas, who you might not remember, but she was an English teacher. She read to us every Friday. I was introduced to some authors that influenced the rest of my life from her reading to us on Friday afternoons. Mr. Light, Mr. Pavlov, Mrs. Shumate, and fellow honoree Huntley Robinson, along with many more, were key influences. Just want to take a brief second to mention Mr. Light. Because I went in at the beginning of my junior year, and he said, well, what do you want to do after high school? And I said, I want to go to college. And he said, where do you want to go? And I said, I really don't know. And he said, well, did you ever think about West Point? And I said, no, I never have. He said, well, you should. And so I went home to my mom and dad, and I said, what would you think about me going to West Point? They thought it was a good idea. And in looking through things, I found all the letters that were written on my behalf by Coach Unseld and Mr. Light and other teachers and other people to my congressman recommending me for the military academy. And I almost don't recognize the young man they wrote those letters about. I hadn't seen them in years and years and years. But this group of teachers played a larger role in the state. As the education labor movement grew, and our class schedules were interrupted 3 different times, while those teachers worked for better working conditions and pay, so that teachers wouldn't need to work in the steel and auto plants in the summertime. Probably those of you younger can't imagine the idea that teachers had to take summer jobs in order to be able to teach. And that was a meaningful experience to see that laboratory of organized labor and government in action. As with most high school students, sports and extracurricular activities were important to us. While we didn't have all the same opportunities that Carlson students have today, you know, when I went to a football game and saw varsity letters for rowing and debate and a few other things, just dumbfounded. It's a wonderful, wonderful curriculum and set of activities that these students have today. So we didn't have all that, but we were busy. Also, back in the 60s, women's sports were not given the same priority as they have today. But I want to say that Carlson's women's teams at the end of the 1960s were awesomely good. If you look in the trophy case, you'll see a lot of women's trophies before you see any men's trophies. Excuse me, in the years before you see any men's trophies. Our Girls Athletic Association teams were almost always undefeated. And our women's athletes, cheer squad, scholars and leaders, including Mickey Grew, Lynette Coop, Pam Heumann, Linda and Brenda Lambert, Holly Hubbard, Gail Secor, Deb Julian, Terry Som, and our homecoming queen, Joette Doty, / now Morton, played key roles in the development of our class and set the stage for those state championships that followed. On the other side, my best friends Mike Hunter and Mike Isaac led the football team, the basketball team, the baseball team, the cross-country team. We were the first Carlson football team not to have a losing season. So we went 4-4-1, and we should have won that other game. We were the first team, Carlson team, not to lose to Groseal. That was the tie. And not losing to Groseal was a big, big deal. The thing I can't remember was whether Mr. Unseld let us burn the beret after a tie or not. Obviously, nobody else knows either. You know, just thinking back on some of those folks, you know, Dave Armitage broke his ankle 3 years in a row, but never quit. Cobb Dennison played some of the sports and took pictures of all of them. Cobb is Pat's older brother. And Cobb is still taking photographs as we speak and teaching. As he's not here tonight because he's teaching a photography class. Churchill became a police officer in many of the local neighborhoods. Gary Guzzi became a mayor, believe it or not. Paul Davis is a scientist someplace. I can't leave my comments about the class of 1970 without mention of Sue Kovacs Harris. Sue is kind of the heart and soul of the class. She knows where everybody is. She knows what they're doing. She makes sure the reunions brings us back together. And just is, I don't know, dead mother or whatever is the right word, but thank you, Sue. I imagine it's somewhat boring for me to rattle off a lot of names of people that most of you have never heard of. Though I'm happy to see there's more of you here that have heard of some of these people than I thought. And especially as people came in the door and I saw, hey, there's people here that earned my speech. And honest to God, you can look, I didn't add anybody. But every person that you honor tonight is the sum total of all the people and experiences in his or her life. Since college, I spent 9 years in the Army, 3 more as a government employee, and 28 years at a job that I love as CEO of an investment firm focused on helping people to make investments that are consistent with their values. We focus on the creation of a just and sustainable world where every child is safe, healthy, and free. With almost $1 billion in assets under management, I look back at my formative years and give thanks for the education and values that I learned at Carlson that have made all of the years since possible. My best boss, Lieutenant Colonel Don Rojas, once said to me, "You may not always get all of the credit that you deserve. Just be certain to deserve all the credit that you get." I will do my best to continue to deserve the honors that you have paid to me tonight. I am, and always have been, proud to be a Carlson Marauder and a member of its class of 1970. Thank you very much. Oh, thank you.
Our next honoree is Mr. Huntley Robinson, retired counselor, teacher, administrator, retired in 2009. Mr. Robinson provided nearly 40 years of service to the students of the Gibraltar School District as a teacher, counselor, and administrator. He is responsible for creating the first electronic scholarship portfolio, which sort of revolutionized portfolios. No longer the days of clipping and posting and putting things together in envelopes and folders like I had to back in '93 when he was my counselor. These were presented at numerous local and national conferences. Mr. Robinson was the recipient of the Golden Apple Award for Outstanding Educators and is a past president of the Michigan Association of College Admission Counselors. And like I said, I'm very proud that he was the man that sent me on to Eastern, and again, made the right choices that I needed to do. You know, said college prep is what was important, and kept me on the path, and you know, started me on that way. And then when I came back as an employee and coworker, taught me much more as well. So I sort of got two for the price of one, Mr. Robinson. So again, have a big round of applause for our next inductee, Mr. Huntley.
When I first walked in the room, I happened to look to the left, and I thought I was back in 1968 in my American government class. To the left was all my government students, my Baker, Boyer, Bowler, we're missing Mary Coffey, Mick McCabe. I mean, they were all there. I'm going, what's this flashback? And then I saw so many other people I could tell stories about, but I won't, that are being inducted, and I have great stories too, of their passions that they started at a very young age and continued throughout their life. One of the things, I'm very thankful and very grateful to Mr. Stevenson and all those involved in the nominating committee. I was completely surprised and highly humbled by this honor. I kept thinking back when I first started my career in 1967. I had no idea what the journey would be or how it would end. From being a high school teacher to a guidance counselor, I was truly blessed with the opportunity to work with so many talented students and their families, along with dedicated teachers, custodians, maintenance, secretaries, transportation, hall monitors, administrators, and school board members. And they all had two things in common. First, they had a passion for their job, and they worked as a team towards mutual goals. And those were two things that always stuck out as we went through this whole process. And some of you brought back about Oscar. As a matter of fact, my mom, some of you had my mom as a kindergarten teacher. How many had my mom as a kindergarten teacher? At South Road or at Parsons?
South Road.
Yeah. She's still hanging in there, by the way. She's 94. And, and even go to the Detroit Public Television. They took the kindergarten class down for a promotional thing when Detroit Public Television first got started. I'm not sure the year, 1950 something. And maybe some of you were part of that. Also, one of the things I always remember too is Oscar Carlson. They always used to come. Let me just ask anyone out of the crowd, what's Oscar's birthday?
May 1st.
May 1st. See, everyone, just an obvious person here would know that May 1st. It's also Mike's birthday too. But Oscar, if you remember, he used to come and visit on his birthday, whether it was at that time it became the junior high, it was the high school, and then the new building before he passed. And I always thought that was kind of special, that Oscar would take the time to come and visit us and to see his school. Well, one of the things, when I started this career back in '67, you know, I don't want to say I'm old, but when I started teaching, we used something called microfiche. Remember microfiche? And at the end of my career, we used microprocessors. We went for sweeping spider webs out of our classroom to developing district websites. And the websites, we used a lot of staff and student input. And one of the things that was really great with the students and their families, a lot of them had connections to things like Microsoft. Their parents or relatives worked for Microsoft. Some worked for Intel. Some worked for Sun Microsystems. And we spent a lot of our time as a staff working to get those kinds of programs available to our students to help build that website and to keep Carlson High School ahead of the curve. One of the other things I always remember too, and that everyone has to remember that. Remember the blue fingers you had from the mimeograph machine? We all had those. Well, now we have Ricoh copiers that can do 164 pages in a minute, where before you had that drum and you had also, many students student sent away they're doing a report, they send away, 2 weeks later you get the information back. Remember? Now it's 2 minutes or less than that, you can have your report via the internet and through email. Things have changed tremendously over the years. The career pathways was always one of our emphasis in the counseling center, and with the technology that became available, we were always able to assist students with applications and for scholarships. We went from 3.5 floppies disks to video applications using DVDs. What we didn't realize at the time, and I was kind of reminded of this by a fellow counselor, that what we were doing at the time ended up being the YouTube concept. We started using this in applications, job applications, as well as scholarships. And one of the first ones I always remember, we did it before the Rotary Club in Gibraltar. We had a student who was in building trades and he was doing ceramic tile installation. And we recorded him. And I always remember this employer said to us when we demonstrated the skill that we had for students, he said, you know, before I hired this student, I can critique his work. I can see if he's doing a good job or if he's not doing the proper thing. And that was the spark that started with that ceramic tile demonstration. From there we went on to doing trumpet solos, you name the musical instrument we did. Athletics, where we were demonstrating skills of baseball players to basketball players, all kinds of different things. In the arts department, they were doing sculptures, they were doing paintings, we were able to put those on the videos, putting them to music, and sending those out with the scholarship applications. The success can be demonstrated in the soaring increase in scholarship money that families received once we got this technology up and running. And like I say, I think back now, we were really doing what YouTube does today. And we thought about doing it back then, but we didn't have the security and the privacy for our students, and that was our biggest concern. So we never did go to putting it on the internet, but we did go to the DVDs. And it was a great plus for a lot of students and their families in going on to school or for applying for a job. You could actually demonstrate your skill to the employer. As you can see, I had a journey and reward beyond measure in all positive growth, witness, and education, and especially in our students. I want to thank my wife and our sons for all their support over the years, and again, all the talented students, staff, and community who supported our passion for success. And again, thank you for this honor.
Our final inductee this evening is Ms. Christina Wilson, a 2001 alumna. After graduating from Gibraltar Carlson High School, Christina went on to earn a bachelor's at Eastern Michigan University. Currently, Ms. Wilson is a teacher and varsity cheer coach for Brighton schools. Before working in Brighton, Ms. Wilson was a long-term substitute and the varsity cheerleading coach for the Gibraltar School District. What she did with the varsity cheer program here was amazing. She spent numerous seasons coaching and bringing 5 seasons at varsity level, 4 of those seasons being a state champion. I coached alongside I was varsity track coach during those years and worked my tail off just to get kids into the state meet. And when I would get a kid in the state meet, I think it was the biggest deal in the world, and then fought like crazy. And I think one year I had the best I ever did was have a long jumper take 3rd place. And it just amazed me, and we worked and worked. But when I saw what she did with the cheer program, it was like triple what I did, and then the results were there. I mean, it's just amazing. It's a dynasty that still lives to this day, and she built that base for this modern dynasty of Carlson varsity cheer. Christina's Brighton team competed at the regional meet last year, and they're just continuing to go higher, I'm sure. So how about a big round of applause for Ms. Christina Wilson.
Okay, so I have to tell you, as I was writing my speech, I decided that I would test it out on my students today. So I performed it for my class, and they were like, "Oh, Miss Wilson, that was so good." And then I had one student say, "Well, Miss Wilson, that was really good, but maybe try to make more eye contact." So I hope to report back with good results. I want to start this evening by saying congratulations to the fellow 2015 inductees and those that have been previously inducted. It is an honor to be in such great company. I want to thank you for the nomination. I am humbled to be even considered. And thank you to the committee for electing me into this prestigious position. I was very surprised and I'm very honored. Thank you to my family and friends who have supported me during my time in Gibraltar schools, sitting through cold, wet football games, long cheerleading competitions, middle school band concerts, and we know how great those are.